things can always change at any time. So it's always good that you include your clients throughout the process. And I wrote some notes here that I'm just going to mention to us. Just going to read to us. So when you include your customers in the process, you reinforce the idea of transparency and you generate conditions for a more lasting relationship. And moreover, the strategy can also provide surprisingly useful insights, not only on the improvement on the process, but even you can leverage on it for improvements for you as the coach. There are some times whereby you can feel like, oh, you've gotten to the peak of everything that you need to do. But when you include your clients through the process, you are able to discover some new insights that you can even use to solve the problem even better. And now it makes you feel professional, it makes you feel versatile, it makes the client feel like, oh, this guy is all knowing, in quotes. It makes the client feel like this person is all knowing. Whereas you got all of those insights because you carried them all through the process. You were able to discover some new things that you now worked on and developed while working on that project. And also the extras that I was talking about, you should learn to say no when necessary. And I don't write out stuff on this because I feel like I'm just going to spell it out to us. So you should learn to say no when necessary. I think I started the class by mentioning that as well. You should know when to say no. There are some things that are way beyond you. Even after you've weighed the whole issues, you've checked it out, and you've checked the entire project, you've checked what your client is trying to achieve, and you've done like a good evaluation of it. To an extent, you can tell if it's something you can do or not. So when you feel like, oh, this thing is actually beyond you and you cannot, it is just good to say no. I can't do this, because one thing that it does for us is that it helps you avoid unnecessary stress. Now, when I mean stress, it is stressful whereby you're trying to solve a problem you don't even know. It is very stressful when you're trying to solve a problem you don't even know, something you don't even understand. So why not just save yourself the stress by telling the client, oh, you know what, on this, I don't think I have a solution, but if you want me to get you someone else, I can always do that. It is that simple. It does not make you less professional. It does not make you a novice in your field. It only just shows how good you are and how intelligent you are to quickly know what you can handle and what is beyond you, and run from those that are actually beyond you. Secondly, you should know how to prove your value. Know how to prove your value. Now, knowing how to prove your value is very important for every coach. And this is something that I want us to take home as well. Knowing your value, knowing how to prove your value is very important. Now, most of the times we are caught in the web whereby we are trying to explain to people how much we can, like trying to convince them on how much we can undo their stuff, undo their projects, undo their problems, and provide good solutions to it. But the truth is, nobody likes explanations. Let me just put it that way. Nobody likes explanation. Just like Burna Boy said, you go explain tire, no evidence. And that's just the truth. Now, it is needed in business. You should have evidence. Now, what do I mean by evidence? You should be able to have data that you can share and say, okay, so and so period of time, I embarked on XYZ project, I embarked on XYZ, and I was able to achieve XYZ for my clients. All of this data now helps you save the explanation. It saves you the stress of having to convince them, I promise you, you can test me. Just give me a try. Let me do this. No, they've seen what you've done. They have an idea of your work even before coming to you. They've seen how far you've gone. They've seen what you can handle. So you don't even need to, like, it saves the stress of explaining and trying to get yourself into the whole gig. So let's not forget that you should learn to say no when necessary, because I know that it is hard for us to say no as human being, and everyone, one way or the other, falls in that category. It is always hard for us to say no because we don't want to miss out on opportunities. But personally, I feel like it is good for you to miss out on such opportunities that you know that there's nothing you can do about it. It is not even your field. It is not something you can handle. Just let it slide. More will come your way. And that's just how the world is. And that's why it is round. It revolves. So if you're not able to jump on it today, now you can go back and you feel like, oh, I'm pained, I should be able to solve this, but I already rejected it anyways. Go back and look for means of how you can develop yourself in that aspect, knowing that tomorrow, when another opportunity comes from that direction, you can always jump on it. So it is very important that we get all of that. So In conclusion, communication is very important whenever you're setting client expectation, because communication it sets the standard, it sets the process that you follow. So you can't just expect that you know everything, and you can't even expect that your clients also knows their problem. There are sometimes that even your clients can identify their problems and what they're trying to achieve. But communication opens a lot of insight, brings about a lot of insights, because you're able to understand everything. You're able to go across different touch points and even far beyond what your client was actually expecting. It is very important. It is very key. And also, goal setting is very important, because it helps you know what is achievable, and it helps you know what you can manage, what you can undo all by yourself. So I guess that's it. Thank you very much. I feel with these few points of mine, I've been able to explain this topic. All right. So if you have questions, we can just drop them. Over to you, Titilaya.
Oh, wow,
Sorry.
wow.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much, Prince Dynamic. That was really amazing. It was straight to the point and it was packed with awesome knowledge. So thank you so much. And I guess this
Thank
is
you.
where we actually get to ask questions like yeah, so we have the question and answer period now, so we have about 15 minutes to wrap this up before 5 p.m. So if you have any question, kindly put them in the chat box, or you unmute your mic and you just ask straight away. So as usual, people will be waiting for the first person to ask the question, but I will ask anyway, just so I can open the floor for others. But while I'm asking, please prepare your question in the chat box, or you unmute your mic and just ask away. So my question is this: are there like some questions you must ask a client um in order to be able to set clear expectations on both sides of the transaction? What are some of the questions you should ask as a coach or a creator or entrepreneur? um it doesn't I know that the questions can vary from business to business, right, or industry to industry, but I believe that there should be some sort of regular check mark, some kind of questions you can ask the client generally, so that it can help our audience here in trying to manage expectations from their clients. So if we have like three or four, five questions we need to throw to our clients, what are they, or what should they be centered around, before we can know that yes, we are managing the client and we know what to expect from the client.
All right. Excuse me. All right. Okay. So thank you very much for that question. And I feel like that is one of the best questions that we can have here this evening. So I'm just going to put it this way. I'm going to try to ensure that my answer cuts across all industries, regardless of whether you're a coach or maybe you're just a business person, like that. So one big question that you can ask your clients is to ask them, what does success means to you? So at the end of this thing we are working on this journey we are embarking, at what point will you be able to say, oh, this was a successful project? And now, when we look at this question I just talked about, you can now bring out so many questions from this. Now, it now depends on the industry that you belong to or your niche. You can now bring out so many questions from. But the first and the most important question is to understand what success means. So let's say, for instance, now you're coming to me. Now, let me talk about my own field. You're coming to me and you're like, hey, Prince, okay, so this is what I'm trying to do. I want to set up a business, but my target audience are the teenagers, like younger generations. So now I'm going to ask you, you need me to work on a brand identity for you, right? That would help you communicate these values properly. So now I'm going to ask you, that what does success mean to you? So at what point do you feel like this project will be successful? So you can go about telling me, okay, so when I see younger generation posting my stuff on their social media, I want to see them sharing it on Instagram. I want to see them jumping on our trends and things like that. From that, I'm already getting insight into what success will look like for you. So let's just assume that this is an actual project that we're working on, and you're like, oh, you want them to post things about your brand on their social media. it already gives me insight as a brand designer that whatever I am working on must be eye catching, like it must catch the attention of this younger generation. So I know that whenever I start working on the project and maybe I'm trying to minimize the elements I use on my designs and things like that, and it is not so pronounced, I know that I am failing already. Because the first, what you feel like success is to you is having them posts on their social media, right? So I know that whatever I must do must be something that it is post worthy, that any random teenager can just see and share. I don't know if you got my illustration. Like, so that's just like an example of what it is. So from there now, I can bring out other questions like, okay, um, you said you want them to post on your social media. So do you mean that we're going to be coming up with trends? Okay, does it mean that you we're going to be playing with colorful, we're going to be playing with so many colors and things like that? I'm already bringing out so many questions, and you discover that at the end of the discovery session, you can even come up with even more than 100 questions right from that main question that I just asked. What does success means to you? And that is one secret that I really want everybody to hold on to, whether you're a coach or not. If you're working with anybody or even any organization, not necessarily even as an entrepreneur, if you're working with any organization, you need to understand what success is to them, because understanding what success means now, you can be able to generate several questions that you can ask along that line in order to achieve what that success is. And you can also advise the clients. So I don't know if I've answered you or not, Titila.
Yeah, yeah, you've answered the question. Awesome. So I'm trying to check the chat now to see if there are other questions. All right, so we have about 9 minutes to go. If you have other questions, I think now is the time to ask. Before we actually wrap this up. So is there any other person that just wants to unmute their mic and ask away? We have about 8 minutes to go.
Hello.
Oh, that should be Orupe Steven, right? Okay.
Yes.
Please,
I just yes, I just want to give a thumbs up to the organizers as well as the presenter. He has really done a lot of work. Good job there. I like his presentation, especially his on-hand experience exposure. At least it shows that you're actually somebody who are sharing your bad side, your failures, and also sharing your success is actually a very key. Is what I'm taking out of this thing, this your presentation. The only thing I just want to mention is that I am also a boarding coach. Um, I'm trying to build a coaching career in area of focus as well as entrepreneurship. What's how did you start and how did you grow yourself in this your line? It's just what I just want to ask. Thank you very much.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Stephen. So, if I got your question correctly, you said I was able to grow myself in my field, right? And as a coach. I want to be sure that was what you asked. All right.
Yes,
So for
yes, yes,
all right,
yes,
all
yes.
right,
Because
perfect.
I want to follow your blueprint. Yes, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So I'm gonna try as much as possible to keep this short because I can end up telling stories. I'll just try to keep it short. So one thing that is very important for you as a coach or even as an entrepreneur is to have like how do I put it? You should have things that you've worked on. So one mistake that we make as entrepreneurs or as business persons is that we are quick to jump out at people and tell them that, oh, this is the solution I can prefer. We forget the place of process. And when I say process, I mean we forget the place of growth, trying to grow yourself to a point where you feel like, yes, I can solve people's problem. I've seen so many cases whereby people just come out and they're like, oh, you know what? I can solve this problem for you. I can do XYZ. I can do this. I can get you that. But it is always good when you've taken your time, like you've eaten yourself. And when I say hide yourself, I do not mean like you stay behind curtains and try to do stuff, but like follow gradual process. Process is very important. It is good that you follow process. Forget whatever you're trying to achieve. Now we know that everybody's trying to become somebody, everybody's trying to achieve a particular goal. And in the process of trying to achieve this particular goal, we forget process. Now, process is very important because along that process line is where we get to learn valuable lessons that would help us. So for me personally, let me now talk about my field. For me personally, I've been in the design space for over 7 years. And I can say that the time that people just started getting to know me was just, I think with this year now, it should just be about a year and a half or 2 years. And I said I've been working 7 years. So the question you might want to ask me, what have you been doing for the past 5 years? I've been working on myself. I've been trying to position myself so that when the opportunity comes, I can feel like, oh, yes, I'm good. People can know that, oh, this guy is good. And now I have covered tracks such that at that time, I can show you things I've worked on. I can show you things I've worked on, things I've achieved. I can show you stuff that I have done and show you the success rates I've gotten. Now, why is this very important? It is very important because people people grow in people's growth is actually like is different. So you might be working on something such that it won't take you even more than 2 years. You're already getting to the point whereby you feel like you've achieved a lot. And some other people, it can take them almost forever, like myself, to get to that point whereby they feel like, oh, yes, I've arrived. It can take them forever. So it is good that throughout that period you follow process, you work on yourself, work on things that you can show, have like a portfolio of things that you can show to people because you don't know when the right opportunity is going to come. So if you're asking me for like a direct answer to your question, I'm just going to tell you that take time to follow process, grow yourself. Now we know that you're trying to create a coaching business, right? But it is good that you start small. Don't just jump into it and feel like, oh, you can gather everything, you have access to everything around you, and you can always pull them here and there. It is always good that you start small. So now, starting small does not necessarily mean you starting small because you want to start small, but you're able to like curb your, let's say there are going to be cases whereby you fail. Yes, there are cases whereby you fail. And one thing you should know is that failure is also a very important step where you're trying to achieve something. But now, when you start small and you fail, you can get lessons that you would apply going forward. And the failure is not so pronounced because you started small and you're in a small cycle. It is not so pronounced. And personally, for me, I've been in cases whereby I felt like, do I even know what I was doing? Like I was not so sure if I even know what I was doing at all or stuff like that. But because I started in a small circle, I was able to pick out those, I was able to note those mistakes, those errors that I made, and I was able to work on it. And eventually I followed the process to where I am now. And I'm still following that process because there's a greater goal ahead of me that I'm trying to achieve. So the take home should be start small, follow the process. Start small and follow the process. I guess I've answered your question, Steven.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, you're welcome.
3 minutes to wrap up. We have another question here from Shola Biola Jumoke. How do I measure the success of my clients when coaching?
All right. So I think I mentioned that in the course of the class. That is where you set like a structure, you put structures in place. Excuse me, you put structures in place after you've understood what success means to your clients and you've understood what success means to them. You can now put in structures in place and say, okay, so at point A, we should have achieved this, and this is what it means when we've achieved point A. When we've gotten to point A, this is what we should be able to do. This is what we can, like this is the milestone that we've gotten to. So you put structures in place to measure your client success. And like I said, communication is very important because there are some times whereby you feel like, oh, you've done a lot, whereas you're just getting started with the client. So it is always good to get feedback. I think feedback is the best way to know and measure success with your clients. So you're doing something for a particular client, you're asking for feedbacks, they're telling you what they feel, you are giving them like a open you're giving them the freedom to be able to express themselves. You can get the fact and know if you actually making progress or not. So put structures in place and be open to communication. Hear from your clients. It's very important. Yeah.
All All right. One more
Yeah, I guess I've
question.
answered that as well.
Yeah, one more question.
All right.
Process if I from Kikachuku, process if I get you correctly is discovering oneself, building oneself, knowing the problem I intend to solve, and mastering how to provide the solution. I guess is Kikachuku, I don't know your
Okay, so
question. Is
it's
it that
yeah,
you
yeah, I think I get a question.
okay, okay, all right.
I think I get a question. So it's saying process, if I get you correctly, is discovering oneself. Like Kikachuko is trying to be sure that this is what I meant when I was talking about process. And yes, that's what I meant. It is very important that you build yourself, you discover yourself. Now, discovering yourself means knowing what you're capable of, knowing what interests you. Because there are cases whereby things you might be working on things that might not even interest you. So knowing what interests you, discovering yourself, knowing things about yourself, building yourself, and understanding the problems that you are most likely going to face is what I call process. Yes. And mastering how to solve this thing. So you cannot completely master how to solve this thing. But you can understand the problems that you are most likely going to face. Yes. And mastering how to solve this thing is what I call process. Yes. And I hope that I've answered that question.
All right, so thank you very much. So in absence, I don't know if there is any other question, but we are about to wrap up now. Um, are there any other questions before we wrap up? Okay. So in absence of questions, I just want to say thank you to our hosts, Prince Dynamic. It was really an amazing session. Thank you so much for impacting knowledge. Thank you for sharing your story, and we really appreciate you for um helping us for our first ever summit at Coachli and actually helping us to see through this. So thank you so much. Okay, so somebody's raising their hand, right? Steven, yes, please, you can go on. You have
Yes,
the
please.
floor,
You're
Steven.
raising. I said I mistakenly pressed.
Oh, okay.
I raised my. Yes, I wanted to react by clapping.
Okay, all
So
right.
just to
Yeah,
clap.
so
Yes.
the summit still continues. Like we said, it is a 1 month program, and every week we have three classes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. So for the first week of April, we are done for today. We started on April 1, April 3rd, the second class, and today is the third class. So it continues next week, Monday, where and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So please make sure you are there because we are treating different topics with different experts. Every day of the summit. So please make sure you're there and we'll be expecting you. Also, would like to get your feedback. You can actually send us your feedback on our social media. On Facebook, you can send it on Instagram. We'd prefer Instagram actually, so that we can take it seriously because there's a lot of comments, on our Facebook page that we just usually just delete them. So please send us feedback. You can send us via email in whatever form you seem fit. Please just send us feedback about what you've learned and what your experience was like, especially trying to join the summit and also engaging with the host. All right, so thank you. And right about now, I'll have to stop the class. And I wish you a great weekend. See you next week. Thank you once again to our amazing host. Thank you and God bless you all. Bye.